Hey there, welcome to my holiday build guide. Real quick build guide here for you today. I'm just doing one, it's just a low budget or relatively low budget Ryzen based build guide. I'm going to basically tell you my strategy for building a relatively low cost computer in 2019. So I hope you got some Black Friday deals because that was really the time to buy stuff. I set up a bunch of drop list items with my Honey browser extension, hashtag not a sponsor. I just like them. Anyways, the Honey drop list feature can notify you if a price drops on an item that you are tracking. So you just add a bunch of the components that you're considering for your PC build and it can email you when they see a price drop. It definitely works on Amazon. I'm in Canada, so I'm using Amazon.ca. I'm almost certain if it works here, it definitely works in the US. Other countries, I have no idea. But anyways, getting a little sidetracked here. So I tracked down a bunch of great deals, but I also had a little help from Be Quiet. They sent over this Pure Base 500 case and this Straight Power 11 650 watt power supply, which we're going to be using that build today. Big thanks to Be Quiet. I really appreciate their components and how much they can reduce the sound in a system build, especially if, like me, you're going to put it somewhere where you don't want too much noise. Getting back to the deals, we got this MSI B450 chipset motherboard. It's the B450A-Pro, and that motherboard is a full ATX board that's going to give us some PCI lanes, but not the most available. You can get more, but the one thing that was really important to me was to not have one of those new 500 series chipsets on the newer generation Ryzen because they have fans. And under heavy load, you can hear that fan sometimes. It really depends what you're doing, but I'm going to use this as a home theater PC and I don't want to hear a little tiny 1-inch fan going ever. The other big thing I did to save a buck here was not only going with the last generation chipset, I went with the last generation Ryzen processor. We have a 2700X here, rather than what a lot of people might recommend, which is a 3600 from the new Ryzen series that launched, the Ryzen 3000 series that launched earlier this year in 2019. Now, the reason you might go with that choice isn't always that straightforward. It really depends on your use case. So, just to quickly go over the other components here, I can't really see around the case, but we have some Corsair memory, 3200 megahertz, C16 memory speed, and it's one that they specifically sell for Ryzen, if you can see the tiny little logo on there. This is just 16 gigs. That's about all I need in this system. It's a home theater PC. I'm not playing games and having a bazillion Chrome tabs open, so I think we're okay right now. But the smart thing here is upgradability. It's just 2 sticks of RAM, and there's 4 slots on this motherboard, so we can up it to 32 when we need it. Because believe me, eventually you will need it, because that's just how it goes with memory. Everything just eats more over time. The other thing we have here, which you might find more of a bother to upgrade, which is your boot drive. So we went with a 512 gigabyte Intel 660p drive. That's an M.2 NVMe SSD. So that means it's quick, but it's not the top end. It's not a Samsung, which would be a lot faster with sustained writes, especially if the drive is full. This drive, if you max it, I think above 80%, it gets a lot slower, especially if you do heavy writes all at once. Because it has some fast memory mixed with some slow memory, it does amazing things. Great little drive, great value, good for installing a bunch of Steam games, excellent for that. And half a gig of storage should be plenty for what we're going to do with this computer. So, getting back to use cases here, I'm not really looking for bleeding edge performance on this computer. I'm thinking, you know, I want to watch videos in 4K on my TV, and that's one thing. I have an LG TV from a couple years ago. It's a smart TV, but it can't seem to handle 4K Plex streams. It stutters. You throw on some subtitles on there too, and then it's just... So I am going to fix that by getting a proper, powerful system to push that video content. I also kind of like to play a little couch co-op games from Steam that support, you know, multiple controller input going into one screen. Games, I'm thinking off the top of my head, stuff like Broforce, totally fun game, or Crawl, the reverse dungeon crawler where you get to be the bad guys when you die. It's pretty fun if you get 4 players on that one, if you know what I mean. Anyways, those games are not tip-top high-end graphics monsters. You don't need crazy graphics. And so that's why, if you saw in the computer there is a graphics card, and I didn't mention one. I pulled it from my old rig. It's a 980 Ti, plenty of power, and it's hard to match that power at a low price right now if you got a new graphics card. So I'm going to use this old one from my old system. I always support that idea of, if you have good working components from an old build, save them, put them in a new build if they're good and working. If they're not, I mean, you're just going to cause yourself a headache. And in this case, that's why I went with a new motherboard rather than pull my old Intel motherboard and processor, because the motherboard was starting to go, was having some little issues here and there. Lots of blue screens and hardware issues. Anyways, that's kind of how you should approach this. Other considerations too, you know, don't go build this exact same thing I built necessarily. You might want to look at the used market. There's a lot of people like me that are like, oh, there's new Ryzen stuff out. Now, I didn't have the old Ryzen stuff, but some people do upgrade every other year. And you might be able to get a really sweet deal on a Ryzen 2000 or 1000 system, or an older Intel system from someone who's moved to Ryzen, as seems to be the popular thing this year. Talking to one of the local retailers in town, they told me on Black Friday they sold out of every single 3000 series AMD processor that they had in stock before Black Friday started. And this is in Canada. Black Friday isn't even our big sale. Well, it's starting to be, but it used to be Boxing Day, like the day after Christmas. Anyways, I digress. So if you want to play AAA games, prioritize graphics card in your build. Step down on the processor, or buy used for your motherboard and processor combo, and get more of a modern graphics card. But just make sure your power supply can handle it. Recent generations of graphics cards have been pretty easy to power unless you're going on with some monstrous configuration that uses multiple graphics cards. It used to be that you could legitimately be looking for a 1200 watt power supply, but these days a 650 will do you in most scenarios. That's usually my go-to size of power supply, unless I'm building a computer that's purely for office use. Now, if you took this computer and pulled out the graphics card and just thought you're going to use it for an office purpose, that would also be a little bit of a mistake. So if you're going more of that route, and you're not a gamer, you just want a reasonable build, holiday build minus the graphics, we can adjust this build quite simply. You swap out the processor, the 2700X, and buy one of the ones with integrated graphics. AMD has their G series processors that end with I believe they all end with the G. Double check that one on the internet. But with AMD, you gotta double check if there's integrated graphics or not, because a lot of their series has none. So that's a gotcha you gotta watch out for. Anyways, if you want a nice quiet case, be sure to try out one of the Pure Base 500 cases like this one, along with the power supply. The computer is running here. I can't hear nothing coming from it. I don't know if you can, if you have magical ears through YouTube. Good luck with that. It's nice and quiet. I really like it. one of the beautiful things about this one is I heard about it and I went and measured the spot where I want to put it in. This case is just shy of like 18.5 inches, and it just fits nicely under the shelf in my AV closet. I'm really pumped to get it in there and to start pumping some 4K video up there. Anyways, happy holidays to everybody. Thanks for checking out my build guide. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. I will get back to you if you ask any. My promise on that. Assuming this video doesn't go viral, which I would guess it's not going to, but hey, if it does. Have a happy holidays and bye. Oh, that was a rough ending. Thanks for checking out this holiday build guide. Be sure to like, subscribe, smash that bell, do all the things. And most importantly, if you have any questions about this video, be sure to ask them in the comments below. I'll try and get back to you. Happy holidays, everybody.